Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nichepursuits.com, of course. And I'm excited to bring you guys an interview. It's been a while since I've actually sat down and done an interview with any guests on the podcast. And this one is a great one, I think. It's somebody that I've wanted to talk to for quite a while. It's Greg Mercer from junglescout.com. And it kind of feels like it's been a while since I've sat down in front of the microphone and actually recorded a podcast because we've been doing the Niche Site Project for a little bit. So a lot of the previous podcasts that, if you've been listening, have been episodes that are coaching calls between myself and Samara, or Perrin and Colleen, or Jake and Ryan. So this is kind of the first original podcast I've done in a little while, and it's a great one. I think it's worth a listen. Like I mentioned, Greg Mercer from junglescout.com has really two awesome businesses that we dive into. The first, of course, is his Amazon FBA business. This is a guy that is a legitimate business owner when it comes to selling stuff on Amazon. You can hear the numbers that he shares. He's doing over $400,000 in revenue per month, and he shares the profit on that as well. So it's huge numbers. He's built a huge business. He explains exactly how he has done that, but then I ask a lot of questions as far as, well, how do people dive in and find products that are easy to sell, that have low competition? Maybe not easy isn't the right word, but to make your life easier, to find the right product. How do people go about doing that so that they can actually build a business on Amazon themselves? So we dive into the tactics and strategies that he's used as well. But then we dive into his second business that he has, which is Jungle Scout, which is a product finding tool for Amazon. It's a Chrome plugin, Chrome extension, as well as an online tool that helps you analyze all of the results that are on Amazon. And I can tell you that it is a tool that I use almost every single day because I'm out looking for new opportunities to sell products on Amazon. And this is my go-to tool without a doubt that I use to see how much money is being made from any particular listing on Amazon, to see the competition level and that sort of thing, to see if I should really go after that. And so because it is a tool that I use, and I've talked with Greg about it, he's been willing to offer a discount on that product for anybody listening to this podcast that wants to check it out. You can find Jungle Scout at junglescout.com/niche pursuits. And again, that is a link that will give you a discount on that tool. And of course, yes, it is my affiliate link, but it is junglescout.com/niche pursuits. So with that, I hope that even if you're not interested in the tool, you will be interested in what Greg has to share about his businesses. We spend the huge majority just discussing how to build an Amazon business, how he's done that, and a lot of great tactics that you can apply as well. So hopefully you enjoy the interview. So here's Greg. All right, Greg. So how you doing? Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast.
Spencer, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited to be here. I think we're going to have a good time chatting for the next hour or so.
Yep, absolutely. I'm looking forward to interviewing you quite a bit because, well, two reasons. One is because, as you may know, I got recently involved in the Amazon FBA business about a year ago. And so that's starting to scale up a little bit. And I know you're doing quite well there. And so we'll dive into that. So I want to pick your brain there. And then one of my favorite tools, I will be honest, for looking for new products is Jungle Scout, which is the tool that you created. And so I'm excited to talk about that as well. So two huge reasons I want to have you on. So I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we jump into your businesses and how they're doing and, how you're making them work and all of that, can you give us a little bit of background as far as what were you doing before you ever even started selling physical products on Amazon?
Yeah, sure. So I used to have a typical corporate job. I used to be an engineer, and I started selling on Amazon about 3 years ago now. So I started with products that I would source from wholesalers. So these aren't like private label type items. So I'd source from, like well-known brands like Black & Decker, whoever. And when I first started, that was a pretty good business model. It's the barrier of entry is fairly low. You don't have to set up listings. You don't have to do much besides just find sources for these products. And when I started, Amazon wasn't quite as competitive. So on a lot of these items, I was like, the second or the third seller. There weren't many sellers on these products. And then as the years went on, I started to see more and more competition on these items. So, obviously one of the big downsides with, reselling products you get from wholesalers is you're sharing the listing with other sellers, right? So you're competing for that buy box. It's usually kind of a race to see who can offer it for the cheapest price. And then that's when I really started to see this new trend popping up where people were private labeling their items and they were owning these listings, not having to share them with other sellers. So then that's when I started to get into the whole private label space.
Right. And so you were doing this wholesaling kind of on the side, right? You had your full-time engineering job and were doing this on the side for a while?
Yeah, so I was actually, after I think about 6 months or so, I was able to quit my corporate job and take the Amazon thing full time.
So it ramped up pretty quick. It was able to replace your income.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I didn't quit until I was making as much money from it as I was as an engineer. And then that's when I decided, okay, like I'm willing to take the leap now. I want to take this to the next level. That's
awesome, man. So you've been full time for about 3 years then? Is that about right?
Yeah, probably about 2.5 years full time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats on that. I mean, it's sort of maybe old news now, and I quit my full-time corporate job about 5 years ago, and so I've gotten to this sort of groove of, hey, I work for myself, and it's no big deal. But, man, it is such a huge deal when I look back at and I think about what if I had to go back and have a regular job now?
Right.
Boy, I would just hate it. So congrats on being able to quit your job.
Yeah, I don't even think I could do it. I'm like unemployable now,
Exactly. Totally. I agree, man. I would just do whatever I can to start another business if I ever,
exactly
had to face going back for a job. So very cool. So let's just dive right into it. I mean, you already sort of explained you went from wholesaling to then started private labeling, and that, of course, has grown over the past couple of years. Can you give us an idea, today or last month, how much revenue or what kind of success are you seeing by selling your own products on Amazon right now?
Yeah, so I still sell some wholesale products, but it's probably less than like a quarter of my business now. The rest is the private label type products. I have roughly like 3 dozen private label products. And then on a monthly basis, fourth quarter was a little better. I think I was doing like over $500,000 in sales a month, fourth quarter. And then now it's like in the 400s.
Mm-hmm. That's huge, man. That's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of sales. I do have a small team that helps me though, so I'm not doing that and all the Jungle Scout stuff by myself. That's one of the ways I have been able to grow is, hiring people to help with that. So I do have a small team that helps me with the Amazon sales.
Yeah, let's actually jump right into that. Like, how big is your team and what do they do for you?
Yeah, so I have 2 people in the States that help me, and then I have one lady who's full-time from the Philippines that helps with other general tasks. The first person I hired was actually someone to help me out with just kind of like with warehouse type stuff. So I hired this person when I was doing all the wholesale sourcing, and there was quite a bit more work then because we were stickering all these items. A lot of times we would order in not such large quantities, and they would have to be split up and sent to different warehouses, like in the same box as other goods and so forth. So that was like a full-time job. That's not really the case so much anymore because I've kind of streamlined some of my logistics stuff. And then my other full-time person in the States is always just working on kind of like all the day-to-day operations, like finding new products, helping with PPC, just like all those little things that go on a day-to-day basis.
Right. Yeah, and you said a couple of dozen products. Is that what you said?
Yeah, roughly like 3 dozen, private label products.
Okay. And you are constantly adding new products as you find them, as you see good opportunities then?
Yep, absolutely. It's hard to pass up when you find a good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now I imagine you're not going to share with us the actual products you sell. That would be awesome, right? If you could do that. But are they all spread out across various markets or various niches, or are you kind of all in the, home and garden space or whatever, right?
Yeah, so I have like 4 different labels now, and I like put all my pretty much all new products can fit under one of those labels. So I have like patio, like an outdoor stuff. I have like a home and kitchen type label and so forth. So I sell like a little bit of everything, to be honest with you. I try to expand like certain brands when possible, but even if I find something that like doesn't fit in with all the rest of my goods, I usually go ahead and just pick it up too.
Right. And so to clarify, and maybe this is sort of a nitty-gritty question that only I would ask, but all these, the 4 different labels that you have, are they all set up as their own LLC, different Amazon account?
So they're all in the same Amazon account, but I actually just recently, it's kind of funny you just asked this because it was just like at the beginning of this year, so like a month ago, I actually opened up separate LLCs for each name brand to try to help me like reduce some of my risk. So I actually don't have, and hopefully like no one who purchases my products listen to this, but I don't have any liability insurance for the products. So what I did choose to do was put each of those labels in their own LLC as like kind of help. Like if someone said, hey, like your marshmallow stick poked my kid's eye out, like I'm going to sue you. Hopefully, then they'd be kind of limited to the assets in that brand, hopefully.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I asked that question because, I have one brand is all, and it's doing pretty well. But I am looking at other products to open. And so I'm thinking about, well, should I get a separate LLC, right? But then should I also go the step of getting a separate Amazon account? And the only reason that I'm thinking about maybe having a separate Amazon account is, let's say I build up one brand and then I want to turn around and sell that business on its own. It would be very easy to sort of turn over the keys to that Amazon account, right? And just say, here you go, here's the business, and it's separate from everything else I do.
Yeah, and I've thought about that before too. You do have to keep in mind that like Amazon doesn't technically allow multiple sellers accounts. However, like it seems to me like, okay, if this is a entirely separate LLC, like different bank accounts, credit cards, everything, like is that multiple seller accounts? Like to me, it doesn't seem like it, but it's something to keep in mind that would maybe increase your risk.
Yeah, I guess that I just assumed that each business would be allowed to have its own seller account, but maybe that's something I would need to look into and actually ask Amazon about. So
right. But then also keep in mind, like if you were to sell like one of your brands, I mean, you could essentially just sell out your inventory on those listings. You come up with an agreement with whoever bought that brand from you that they now kind of like own that brand, and then they would just start selling on that listing. You don't have to actually like, you don't own the listing anyway. Amazon owns it. So then they would just be the only one to start selling on that listing.
That's a good point.
So you don't necessarily have to like turn over a whole Amazon account. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, I'm glad I asked this question. That maybe would prevent me. Maybe I don't even need to go around to the separate Amazon account line. Cool. No, that makes sense. So you mentioned how much you're making in revenue, between $400,000 to $500,000 a month, just depending on time of year and that sort of thing. What kind of profit margin are you seeing on that?
Yeah, so with my wholesale stuff, it's really slim. It's like 12 to 15% margin, and that's including like Amazon's fees. With my private label stuff, it's like way better. And this is one of the huge advantages of it. I'm actually doing between like 35 and 40% margins on that. So that would be, which roughly equates to like 100 or a little bit over 100% return on investment, since the whole margin number, I think, gets a little bit like complicated since Amazon's taking a cut out of that too. Like a brick and mortar, if I said 50% margins, that'd be like 100% ROI.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully that all makes sense there.
Yep. No, that makes sense. So you're making money, you have a solid bottom line, right? At the end of the day, after everything, you're paying the bills. It's a good business.
Absolutely.
So do you sell any products outside of Amazon, or are you exclusively just selling on the Amazon platform?
I'm exclusively just doing the Amazon platform, and there's obviously big disadvantages to that, is that I'm very reliant on, this one specific channel. However, I definitely realize that, ideally all these customers, I'd be moving them outside of Amazon. But my opinion right now is that it's just such a good opportunity that it's hard for me, as entrepreneurs, like our truly limited resources, our time, right? It's so hard for me to devote my time into like creating other stores and trying to sell these products just because I know they're not going to do that well, right? Like, and it's a lot of work to get like a whole new site up and running and, work on your SEO and this and that. And it's like, man, if I devote that same amount of time, like launching a new product, it's just like, instantly is starting to make me money as opposed to, like a kind of a real long play with starting my own stores. So,
right.
But yeah, so I'm just fully taking advantage of Amazon right now.
Yeah. And sounds like no plans to go out and launch your own sites at this point.
Not at this point. I could probably see myself moving into like other international marketplaces. That's kind of like my plan for expansion as opposed to starting my own other stores.
Mm-hmm. As far as Amazon International sites, right? Yeah. Cool. Very interesting. So I've taken, the approach of, well, I want to have my own website really so I can build out my own brand. And, but I don't know that I am doing the right, or that I have the right answer quite yet. I mean, I want to build it out so that I can test out advertising, like use Google ads and Facebook ads and, sell things on my own site. But I'm in such the early stages that, I mean, clearly Amazon is the winner here. I mean, I'm selling 99% of everything I sell on Amazon right now.
Right.
And so, yeah, you make some really good points. Maybe it just makes sense to focus on, well, where's the money coming in right now and just scale that. So very cool.
Yeah, I can definitely see both sides of it. Other people that say, yeah, I definitely want to try to move as much of my business off Amazon too. I can see why that's appealing too. Like I can, I definitely understand both sides of the argument there. That's just the one I've chosen.
Mm-hmm. No, it seems to be paying off. So, and I'm going to have some other questions sort of intermingled here, but I want to talk about your case study that you're doing publicly. It's and of course it is public, so it's okay that I mention, it's the Jungle Sticks, I think is what it's called, right? The product.
Yep, that's right.
That you picked. So let's talk about that. Can you tell everybody, well, what's the case study all about?
Sure. So back in, I think it was like November, December, we publicly did product research, sourced a product, kind of shared all the true steps and actually shared our product. So the product's called Jungle Sticks. They're bamboo marshmallow sticks that are real long. They're 3 feet long. And we kind of just went through the whole process. We're selling them on Amazon right now. All the money we're raising, we're donating to charity. It's a really cool project. It's neat to actually, none of my other products I've like shared with the public. And, most people actually don't ever get to see people's products. And rightfully so, because we've definitely found out when you do share like how much money you're making from a product and the actual product, we have seen a whole bunch of competition jump on it, but it's okay. It's kind of to be expected. But yeah, the product's doing well. I think originally our price point was like $28 and we're selling about $250 or $300 a month. Right now we're kind of doing some price testing. We've dropped it down all the way to $20, which is a lot cheaper, but our sales have about doubled. We're doing about $500 a month in sales now. However, we're only making, I think, like $4 or $5 profit as opposed to like $12 profit. So we're going to try to find that happy median where we can, create the most amount of profit each month.
Right. So if I heard those numbers correct, you're doing right around $10,000 a month in revenue?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Cool. No, so that's pretty good. I mean, that's got to feel good that, you went through the whole public case study and you've got a winner on your hands, at least something that's making some money, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was a little bit nervous when I was doing it because it was like, man, I think I'm pretty good at this, but this is going to be bad if this is like a total flop. But
yep.
No, all the general rules of thumb I use for picking a product and all that stuff, it paid off as always, and it's a good product.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I've done a couple of public case studies as well, and it's very nerve-wracking to make sure the website actually turns out you hoped it would, and so.
Right. Yeah, I followed a few years and. I think you've kind of seen similar thing with like competitors trying to play some dirty tricks or whatever, but
absolutely.
It just, then you can share those things with your audience too about the little hiccups along the way and that kind of thing, which I think makes it a little better. Gives a little more character at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually did, and I will encourage people to go back and watch the webinars and the case study that you did. I watched the first 3 or 4, at least sort of skimmed them at least, I got a lot of good stuff out of there. Where should people go to check out that case study? Is there a URL they can go to or something they can Google to find that?
Yeah, if you go to junglescout.com, under the free resources at the top, it's called the Collaborative Product Launch with Greg. I think the URL is also junglescout.com/collaborative-launch. So, and there we have, like all the webinars we recorded, the blog posts that go along with it and so forth. So yeah, actually, since we were just talking about like hiccups along the way, Spencer, an hour before we started recording this, I got a email from our freight forwarder with the pictures of like my last shipment. And I think it was, 120 cases. And probably like 60 of these cases, Spencer, are just like totally like smashed. Like there's products falling out the side.
Ouch.
So that'll be the next blog post. I guess I'll share what happened there.
Oh man. Hopefully you can save some of those, right?
It is like the freight company's fault. So they're going to reimburse us for us, but it's just a hassle, you know?
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I mean, these are the things that really happen, you know, with this business or with any business. So, you know, I don't get discouraged about it. You just keep on trucking along.
Yep. Absolutely. So, you know, now I kind of come to the golden questions, I think, that people listening in that are wanting to start their own Amazon business that they want to hear. I mean, that question is, well, how do you go out and replicate what Greg is doing? How do you go about picking a winning product? So let's walk through that process a little bit. What are some of the first steps people should do?
Okay. Yeah. Just to start, product selection is like so critical. I mean, if you pick a good product, like your life's easy, you know, it sounds almost like fake, but like it almost sells by default on Amazon if you pick the right product. If you pick something that there's no demand for or way too competitive, like your life's just going to be hard, trying to sell this, like you have to do lots of giveaways and so forth. So it's super critical to like invest a little bit of extra time in the product selection stage. I can't emphasize that enough. So how I look for products is there's a few different ways. One is, I'll just go over a few like the high level ways. Some are just like the totally free ways you can do it is you can go to the Amazon bestseller section. You could just kind of come up with ideas of things you see in your everyday life and so forth. But what we're looking for is we're looking for products that have existing demand on Amazon. And this is what I do at least. I don't, you know, some people come with me and say like, hey, I've got this really good idea. I know it's going to do really well on Amazon. There's no one in this space yet and so forth. And you know, I tell those people, yeah, it's really cool, you know, to be able to invent things and the first to this and so forth. However, to me, that's risky to try to sell something that there's no existing like demand or sales for on Amazon. All I do is find products that there's existing demand for. Like there's already people on Amazon searching for this and buying it. I'm just going to like give them, you know, what they're already looking for.
Right.
So to do that, you can come up with some product ideas, you know, like I said, from the Amazon bestseller section or from your everyday life. The Jungle Scout web app has a product database that has a whole bunch that you can filter through to also find products that are already selling well. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for these products on Amazon. So let's just say like marshmallow sticks. The rules of thumb that I use when selecting a product is I want to see that there's existing 3,000 units per month being sold on Amazon of this particular like niche. So if I searched marshmallow sticks and I were to add up the monthly sales of the products on that first page that were relevant. So, you know, all of the marshmallow stick type items I would add up. If there was like a grill on that page, I wouldn't add that in. And then I want to see that there's 3,000 units being sold per month. So that's kind of like a rule of thumb that I came up with that works well for me. And because I know no one likes to just say like, oh, just look for something with like good demand, right? They want to hear like, you know, real
specifics,
numbers.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's worked well for me. My goal whenever I sell a product is to sell 10 a day or more, which is about 300 a month. And I've just found that I want to see like a particular niche that already has 3,000 units. And to me, that means there's enough existing demand that I can get in there and sell my 10 a day or more.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yep.
All right, cool. So then the next step after that, once I've verified demand, I want to see how much competition there is. So, you know, you might see some products like maybe like a yoga mat or a garlic press or whatever. They're selling like 10,000 a month or 20,000 a month, right? So that kills my rule of thumb. However, they're super competitive. These are like really mature niches that, you know, you'll see all the listings have like hundreds or thousands of reviews. And these are going to be really hard areas to sell in. So if I were a brand new seller and like launch this, you know, a product in one of those niches, I'm going to be on page like 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, never to be found, never make any sales. So the rule of thumb I use here is in the top 5 results. So again, if I just searched marshmallow sticks and I looked in the top 5 results, I like to see at least one seller with under 100 reviews in the top 5 spots. And under the top 10, I like to see like 3 or 4 or even 5 sellers with under 100 or even under 50 reviews would be better. So that signifies to me that it's not too competitive or not too mature of an area, and that me with a brand new product, I can get in there and start making sales. So you're kind of looking for that, that like Goldilocks area, right? Where enough demand, but not too much competition yet. That's kind of like the area you're looking for to sell a product.
Right. And could I actually jump in here and maybe clarify something?
Absolutely.
So what exactly are you looking at? When you say you pull up the first page results, is that for like a specific keyword? Like with your marshmallow sticks, I guess that makes sense, right? There's not a lot of variations. But if I type in something like water bottle, for example, right? You got plastic water bottles, you got stainless steel water bottles, you got kid water bottles,
right.
Tons of variations. So how do you define what niche you're looking at?
Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit tougher, right? I want to look for some, like if I find a product, for instance, let's say I'm looking around the room right now. I have a laptop case here. I guess I'm looking for either the main or a keyword that I can target for that. So like my laptop case is made out of neoprene. So if I were to search laptop case and I see there's lots of demand there, but it's way too competitive, then maybe I niche down one step further and try neoprene laptop case. And then that would be like the market that I'm going after. Or I would try like leather laptop case or so forth. So you just want to kind of pick like probably the highest level main keyword or main like market. And then if that looks too competitive, you can try to niche down a little bit, maybe one more keyword on there and see if like that's a market you can kind of get into.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And clarifies for me a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
and then I guess we kind of skipped one important thing here.
Okay.
Is we want to look for I guess this would kind of be like step one. We want to think or look for products that are like simple, lightweight, not too big. The rule of thumb I use is I want it to fit in a shoebox. And these type of items are good items to source from China, to put your private label on and so forth. If it's big and heavy, it's going to be really expensive to ship from China, and the FBA fees are going to be larger. And then also, if you have something that's like too complex or easily breakable, say like something out of glass or like lots of moving parts, those are going to be headaches for you as far as like QC when they're being manufactured, or if they're easily breakable, it's likely that they get broken when they're shipped, from China and so forth. So the simpler it is, the better. And like the smaller or the lighter weight it is, kind of the better the product it is.
Yep, that makes sense. Absolutely. So anything else? You mentioned, of course, what you just talked about, small, lightweight, and then the couple of rules of thumb that you have there about the 3,000 units per month in the niche, and then the level of competition and reviews, that sort of thing. Anything else that you're looking at before you pick a product?
Yeah. So the one last, if it kind of met all those tests, I would look to see. That's when I take it one step further and say, okay, how much money would be left over for me after like Amazon takes their fees? Do I have enough money to make, I always shoot for 100% return on investment. So if I spend $5 on a product, I want to make $5 profit. So that would be the next step, and to be honest with you, items under like $15 or $20 usually aren't going to have 100% ROI. There's just, after Amazon takes their cut, there's just not enough money left over of like a $12 product for you to make any good money on it. So you're probably going to want to shoot for a little bit higher price points, like $20, $25 and up from there. Those are going to be items where, there's enough money left over after Amazon fees that you can make some decent profit out of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That makes sense. So you found your product, found the niche at least that you want to go into. And I don't necessarily want to go too much into sourcing the product. I mean, that could be a whole other call, right?
Sure.
But I maybe you're very similar to me, but basically I just use Alibaba and find providers there. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
Okay.
Alibaba are like global sources. You're just going to search for that product on there, contact suppliers. And like you said, this could be a whole different podcast episode.
Sure.
But that's the general idea is you're then looking for a factory in China to manufacture this product with your private label on it.
Yep. Exactly. And so, one thing that maybe I haven't done a very good job of in creating my products is quality control. And you sort of mentioned that. Do you have like a third party quality control person come in and look at your product in the factory, or what sort of quality control do you do for those products?
Yeah. So for like the longest time, I never did any like inspections in China. And knock on wood, somehow like I never got burned. I always like had good experiences, but eventually after like a year or more, I decided I was playing with fire, and now I do get inspections. Pretty simple. I just like have a guy who does them for me. Nothing like too complex. I'll just give him like a little list of general things to look for. But if I was saying, if you're just starting out, I probably wouldn't worry about it. Like I said, I did it for like a year without any problems. So I would always order a sample from the supplier before I placed a larger order to inspect that. I would always have them take pictures like along the way as well. So, if something was like way off, like the packaging was totally wrong or is the wrong color or something, I could tell from the pictures when they were manufacturing this, and I would say, whoa, wait. So I would do that, but yeah, up until recently, I never had someone actually visit these factories and inspect the products.
Yeah. So how can people find an inspector? I mean, is there a website they can go to? Should they just Google something? Like, I really don't know how I'd even go about finding somebody in China to look at my product.
Yeah, so I actually met the guy who's doing mine. Actually, while I was in China at the Canton Fair, he was like a friend of the sourcing agent I was using.
Okay, all right.
But I think a fairly popular service people have been using is just called I think it's asiainspection.com. I think you could probably just Google it,
right.
There's tons of services that do it.
No, that's cool. No, that makes sense. So, all right, let's say we go ahead and we launch our product, get it out the door. How do you go about promoting your product once it's live and the listing's up?
Yeah, so I don't really do much outside of Amazon. I get some initial reviews after I set up my listing and launch my product. So just depending on how competitive it is, I usually will give away like 20, 30, maybe 50 products and get reviews on those. And then after that, I just turn on pay-per-click inside Amazon, which if you haven't used it before, don't be scared because it's like the easiest pay-per-click ever. And then that's about it. I don't try to send any outside traffic. I don't do anything too crazy. Just do giveaways to get initial reviews and turn on pay-per-click.
It sounds too easy, Greg. Is that all there is to it?
I will say sometimes like I'll give away 30 products and I'll still be like stuck on say like page 2 results. But essentially you can just give away some more products, and that, in Amazon's algorithm kind of counts as sales, and items that are selling better, they rank better. So essentially you just have to give away some products until you're ranking well enough to start to get organic sales. And there's not too much to it. It's like a pretty straightforward marketplace. And again, I will say though, this is with proper product selection. If you pick something that's super competitive, you might have to give away like 1 million units to get ranked on the first page, right?
Yep, exactly. So you basically answered my next question. I was going to just mention that, I do have a few products that are doing really well, but I also have a couple that are not doing so hot, right? And I was just going to ask, well, what can I do to boost those? And I actually just yesterday started another sort of giveaway on these couple of products. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm just going to try and give away some more units and hope that pushes things up. And I'm already doing PPC. Is there anything beyond that?
That's about it.
Okay.
Like with my products, I just will give away another batch of like 10, give away another batch of 10 until I start like ranking well. I also always, use a review service to give them away so that I'm also getting reviews. So you're also getting additional social proof. And then at some point, you should just be ranking well enough that you're making good organic sales.
Right. No, that makes sense. If you're all in on Amazon, that's how the Amazon ecosystem works, right? And that's basically all there is to it. So I do want to talk a little bit about Jungle Scout. We kind of mentioned it already, and the actual business itself. So I personally use Jungle Scout a lot now when I research for products. I love the Chrome plugin that you have. It makes it really easy to pull up all the stats, and I'm using the online version as well. Why did you actually start the business, though?
Yeah, so I started it kind of out of my own need, and I would guess it's probably like, it's kind of funny because you're kind of in the product research type space for like SEO or for like niche sites, right? So I imagine it's probably kind of the same thing for you. Like I did it out of my own need. I saw that, the easiest way to scale up on Amazon is just to launch more products. It's pretty tough once an item's kind of capturing as much market share as possible on Amazon because there's only, going to be so much demand there. So I found products get to a point and then they're probably like never really going to make more sales than that on Amazon. Maybe that's at a few hundred or maybe it's 1,000 if it's really good or whatever. So the easiest way to scale is just to launch more products. So that was at one point like my biggest bottleneck was just finding more products to launch. So what I found is I was filling out a spreadsheet with all this pertinent information, like the name, the price, the FBA fees, the estimated sales per month, and so on. And actually, at that time, I had a few VAs that were doing this for me. Like I'd give them a bunch of ideas and they'd populate these spreadsheets for me. And then, so how Jungle Scout, the extension was born is essentially is the same thing as those spreadsheets, just instead of having to like hire VAs to do this, like you do one little click of the button and within a few seconds you have all that information. So then, instead of having like a small team always doing this for me, it's like, man, now it's just a click of the button. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Jungle Scout extension, it's a Chrome plugin. So when you're inside Google Chrome, if you install Jungle Scout, you then have a little icon in the top right-hand corner of the browser. And when you're on Amazon, say for instance, I just searched marshmallow sticks, I can click the little icon and a little pop-up shows up that gives me all that information we were just talking about. So it shows you how many sales each of these products are making. It shows you how many reviews they have, if the items like standard or oversized, how much money is left over after Amazon takes their cut. All this important information that you're looking for when doing product research. So within a few seconds, kind of like how we were talking about, I look for items that are selling at least or particular niches that are selling at least 3,000 a month without too many reviews. Within a few seconds, you can see all that information and add it up. So it's super convenient.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, it's really convenient. It's like throughout the day, I'll just be doing whatever and I'll think of an idea. I can just go over to Amazon real quick, hit the Jungle Scout little icon, and there you go. It shows me whether or not it's a good niche to go into. So you've actually put together a special URL for people listening into this podcast. So if people want to check out Jungle Scout, they can get $10 off, and the URL is junglescout.com/niche pursuits. So you guys can check it out there, junglescout.com/niche pursuits. And they've got a special offer there. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the product itself, I love. I do use it all the time. But what about the business itself? I mean, it seems like Jungle Scout, at least from the outside looking in, has grown fairly rapidly over the last year. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually just had our first birthday this past weekend. So it's just
nice.
1 year old. And like I said, it was kind of built just out of my own need. And then, I think we got into the market at a good time because, Amazon's quickly growing. It's a really good opportunity right now. So that's good. And yeah, I mean, it's doing well. I think it's a easy business proposition to make to people. Like, look, install this product and I can, it will find you items to make you a whole bunch of money. So it's like a fairly easy sell, right? Like I'm not a good marketer. So thankfully, like the product, does pretty well on its own.
Yep. No, it is. It's a really good value proposition. I do think you are a good marketer because you're down to earth and you're sharing a case study and sort of showing this is what I do in my business. I mean, people love that kind of examples, and whether or not you call it marketing, I mean, it works really well to sell the product just by showing it. So are you willing to share the type of success that the Jungle Scout business is doing? Whatever you're comfortable there, whether that's, revenue or number of users or anything like that?
Yeah. So our team's grown quite a bit. So it started out with just me and one like part-time developer. Our team has expanded into, actually there's 10 employees now, or 10 people in the team, including me. We actually just had 2 new people start last week on Monday. So we've grown quite a bit. We've grown into other products as well. So we also now have, the Jungle Scout web-based app, which it complements the extension really nicely. So all the things the extension couldn't do is kind of the reason we built the web app. And then we've also built a site for people to get product reviews now as well. So we're kind of expanding into other markets there as well. But it's doing great. It's growing nice and quickly. I think we are just about at the 20,000 user mark.
Okay.
So it's doing well.
Yeah, no, that's doing really well. And so is your team all virtual at this point, or do you actually have a physical location, office space, or?
So all of our whole development team is in Vancouver. So I guess you could call that headquarters.
Okay.
Because 5 people on the team are in Vancouver, and the other ones are spread out across North America, US and Canada. So we don't have an official office, but I guess you could call Vancouver our home base.
Right.
So I don't know if you know, Spencer, but I'm actually a digital nomad. So I'm actually in Colombia right now, in Cartagena.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm doing the digital nomad thing. I don't have a home base. I'm just kind of traveling around.
That's cool. I think I had heard that, listening to your webinars, that you were kind of traveling around. I didn't know where you were right now. So where are you headed next? Or are you just kind of, when you get sick of Colombia, you'll decide?
Yeah, so next I'm actually going up to Vancouver to spend a little bit of time with my team.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be living in Barcelona this summer.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, is it just you? Do you have family, girlfriend, or just?
I have a wife, so
okay.
she's my travel buddy.
Awesome. Yep. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, people tell me that I need to do that because there's nothing tying me here to Washington, where my home is. I could do my business anywhere that I want. The one difficult thing is, I am married, but I do have 4 kids, which makes it very difficult.
Makes it a little bit tougher.
Yeah, pack the bags and move somewhere. But, maybe someday during summer break or something, we'll do an extended stay somewhere. We'll see.
There you go. Yeah, we don't have any kids yet, so it makes it a little bit easier on us.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So, cool. I'm actually always blown away by the data that you guys are able to provide. And I'm kind of wondering, where do you guys gather all this data? Like, how do you magically know the revenue numbers for all of these products on Amazon? Can you give us some insight into where you're getting the revenue numbers?
Sure. So this is actually one of the things that kind of sets us apart, or I think was also helped with our early success. We're the first ones and only the ones that do a really good job at estimating sales for products. As an engineer by background, I take a lot of pride in this. I'm kind of like a data geek, right? So we follow now about 150,000 products on a daily basis in the US store, and we monitor their sales and the best sellers rank on a daily basis. And then each month we have an in-house data scientist who kind of then models all this information on what ranks are selling how many units each day and month. So our sales estimates now are actually really accurate. They're plenty accurate enough for sales forecasting or product research and so forth. But yeah, for those who aren't familiar with it, Amazon gives each product a best sellers rank. So, your rank might be 2000 inside of sports and outdoors. And this just means that you're the 2000th best-selling product in this particular category. The rank is directly based on how many units per day you're selling. So it's a really good indicator of that. You just have to follow enough products to be able to properly model it. So yeah, so that's what we've done. And so our estimates are based off the rank, and yeah, they're pretty good. You can, like I said, don't expect to say hey, my product sold 640 last month and you were guessing 662. I think I messed up when I just said that. But anyway, it gets you within maybe if your product really sells 300, maybe it would sell you anything between 250 and 350, right? So it's good enough that you can know, okay, this product's selling 100, this product's selling 500, this product's selling 1,000. Good enough so you can make good product research decisions.
Yeah, and I think you did mention the time frame, but can you clarify? So when I'm looking at this number, is that sort of estimated over the last 30 days, or because I do know that sometimes it fluctuates, right? I look at it 1 week and then 2 weeks later I look at it, and sometimes it's different, sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot, just kind of depends.
Yeah, so it is a good way to think about it is it's estimated monthly sales if the product continues to sell how it has been for the past few days or past week or so. So, your bestsellers rank changes on an hourly basis. So we give you, so since the estimated sales are based off rank, it's well, if it continued to have this rank, or if it continued to sell how it has been, then this is how many you would sell on a monthly basis. So if it's a brand new product that you just released a week ago, you're doing promotions and so forth, that might be a little bit skewed because at first it kind of jumps around a lot. But then once you get in a rhythm of selling the same 10 or 15 or whatever a day, that's when they start to become, a lot more accurate.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, I think it's cool. Again, just a very cool product. I love using it. Well done with the product.
Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, that's sort of, I guess, the overall picture, right? We've sort of walked through how people can pick a product, launch a product, and then talked about Jungle Scout and that sort of thing. There is a lot more involved in the business, but, I'm going to sort of let you pick, was there anything that we didn't cover that you feel like we should have covered for anybody interested in building a business on Amazon?
Sure. Yeah. So if I was like just getting started in the Amazon business today, I would, I'm a big fan of like just-in-time learning, right? I think like if you get too carried away with, like how to optimize like your pay-per-click campaigns or something, you'd probably be too overwhelmed to ever start, right? So I think the first step is just to kind of go over the stuff we talked about with product research, start looking for products, try to find something that has enough demand without too much competition, has a good price point and so forth. And then I'd go ahead and like place a sample order to get some samples. And then while you're waiting for that sample order and, or even your main order, because it takes like a month to get this stuff from the factory, that's when you can start to learn more about like how to set up a listing, how to do pay-per-click and so forth. But overall, it's pretty simple stuff. I don't want to overwhelm anyone who's just getting started right now. The main thing is you just need to look for a product that's going to do well. And then, while it's being manufactured, you have plenty of time to like, you can learn how to set up a listing in 20 minutes, on YouTube or like our blog or wherever. So yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, no, and I actually agree. I mean, there are a lot of courses and, people teaching how to do this, and, that might be okay for some people, but I sort of took the route that you just mentioned. Like I discovered this business about a year ago and I said, okay, well, I'm going to sell a product. And I didn't do any sort of course or training. I maybe read a couple blog posts, but I just went out, ordered a sample, threw it up on Amazon. And in the meantime, learned, okay, how do I write a product listing? Okay, how do I get pictures and optimize those? And okay, how do I get reviews? It really is, like you said, just in time learning. You can do it as you go. And it's worked out pretty well for me. So,
yeah. And the cool thing about Amazon is you can always like go back and change your listing or like upload like new photos or get more reviews. So it's very forgiving if like you make some mistakes, it's like, okay, like my initial listing was kind of crappy. It's like, okay, well, I'll just go in there and change whatever you need to change, So it's really pretty friendly with beginners. As long as, like we talked about, the proper product research, that's like the one way you can kind of fail in this business.
Right. Yep, exactly. It does kind of come down to that. So I do want to clarify that you are strictly private labeling all your products. You haven't actually invented anything, or you're not doing anything super unique with your products, right?
Yeah, that's a good thing that we probably should have touched on. A few of my products I've started to make like little tweaks. So, for instance, my marshmallow sticks, I did they're a little bit longer than my competitors, so they're like 36 inches instead of 30. And I put a few more in the pack so they get 10% more. On some of my other products, like one product, I replaced these like really crappy plastic buckles with metal buckles. So that is like a really, and I'm a big fan of this. It's, I think, like a really good, like long-term play is to make small improvements on things. And I come up with these ideas just by reading the negative reviews. So like, if I found a product that has a bunch of 1-star reviews, I would read those, see what people don't like about it. And then you can look to try to make these small improvements. But I've never like invented a whole product. All I've done is like sent a supplier like a screenshot with some arrows saying like, can you replace this with metal or like something like that,
Right.
Like I've never done like official drawings or anything along those lines. So yeah.
So that's probably what you would recommend then, is for people starting out, don't think about some big new invention, but maybe just a small tweak to an existing product.
Yeah, I think that's a really good play. Like what I'll do is, like in the Jungle Scout web app in the product database there, I'll set the filters to like only show me products that have like average 3 stars or less, yet are still selling like 300 a month or more. And it's like, if a product that only has 3-star average is still selling 300 a month, like that's a pretty good opportunity if you can find a way to start getting like 4 or 5-star reviews on that product. You can probably crush it if you make those improvements, because people really want this item if they're still ordering it, even though it has like 3-star average, right?
Right. That's a good tip. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good way to come up with new product ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. So even the expert, Greg Mercer here of Jungle Scout, I'm guessing that not 100% of every product you launch is a huge winner. Can you give us an idea of like what your success rate is? If you launch 10 products, how many of those do well and how many of those sort of fail, if you will?
Yeah. So I've never had a product that I just like couldn't get to sell, right? I've always like all my products after like giving away enough products or whatever, have started to sold organically. I have stopped selling a few products before, and that's always just been because my ROI wasn't high enough. So maybe it was more competitive than I thought. I had some new competitors get in there, whatever the reason. I had to drop my price below where I felt, where I was making good money on it. And then at that point, I just have to ask myself, like, is it worth tying up more cash into placing another order, or should I just move into a different product? So like, I don't have any products that are just like stuck in Amazon's warehouse, like 1,000 of them sitting there and I can't get them to sell. I've always been able to get them to sell with like either by dropping the price a little bit, giving away a few more units, upping my PPC spend, whatever. Some of them just return on investment, hasn't been adequate.
Right. Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And that's sort of the position I'm in is like I said, I have a couple that aren't selling well, but they do sell, right? It just might take a whole year. And, do I really want to sit on that inventory?
Yeah, but probably you could like drop the price, right? And move them pretty quick, and then you get your cash out of there. And maybe you don't only like break even, right? But then it's like, okay, well, I got my cash out. I learned a good experience. Now I can reinvest it into a new product.
Yep. Exactly. And, the one thing I will say about this business that, I come from the background of running a, software business and running websites, and there's really not a lot of capital involved. This business, it does require some amount of cash up front, right? And especially when you have to go out and order larger batches if you're growing quickly. So that's maybe just a caveat for people that, maybe even though you can only spend $2,500 to get your first product up, just depending on how quickly it sells and if you want to grow, you might have to tie up a lot more cash, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. Another kind of downside is it is fairly cash intensive if you're trying to scale quite a bit. And your cash is tied up for a fair amount of time because, like you'll have to like put down a deposit on an item that, I try to ship whatever I can air freight, but some things I do ship ocean. And those items, I'm putting down like a 30% deposit, and I might not get this product for like 2 more months if I have to ship it ocean, right? And then I have to like put down my final payment, and then it might be sitting on a boat for a month. So it can tie up some of the cash, but kind of what we talked about comparing it to software, Spencer, is the good thing is like you are at least purchasing a real asset that you can probably at least break even on. Like,
good point.
If you develop a new software product, invest like $100,000 of your own money and it doesn't do well, like you can't sell that to anyone. Like no one wants a $100,000 piece of software that no one will buy. At least you do have some real assets that you can probably liquidate, to break even.
Yep. No, that is a good point. So awesome, man. That's really all the questions I have. I mean, after talking to you, I'm thinking, man, why am I not scaling even more on Amazon right now? I need to go
for some new products this afternoon.
That's right. I just figured out what I'm going to do this afternoon.
Nice.
So, no, I appreciate you coming on very much and sort of sharing your tips and the success that you're having. It's a great business. And hopefully people listening in have picked up a few tips that they can learn from. But before we close, do you have any sort of final tips, either for Amazon or just general business advice or anything like that you'd like to share?
Yeah, kind of like as cliche as it might sound, if like you're listening to this, maybe you're still working your corporate job like I used to a few years ago, the next step is like just to get started, just to like start making baby steps, like I guess I remember like sitting in my office like a few years back, like listening to the same podcast, just being like, oh, that guy's like so lucky. I can never do that, whatever. Like I started out with hardly like any money. I was just working like a typical corporate job. Like all you have to do is to be able to, if your goal is to quit or just make some extra money or whatever, is just to start taking action, like start making baby steps along the way. So I'd encourage anyone to do that if you haven't already started.
Absolutely. No, great tips. Appreciate it, Greg, very much. And again, if anybody wants to check out Jungle Scout, they can go to junglescout.com/niche pursuits. So, Greg, thanks a lot.
Thanks again. It's been fun. Take care.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see you.